I'm Brian Van from SportBikeTrackGear.com, and today we're going to put a new battery in our STG project bike. I'm going to take out the brand new stock battery. We've never actually even used it, right? The weight on this was 6.85 pounds. We're going to replace it with a Ballistic Evo 2 8-cell battery that weighs 1.85 pounds. So for a very affordable price, I'm going to effectively reduce the weight of this motorcycle by 5 pounds. This is, bang for the buck, the cheapest weight loss program that you can put your motorcycle on. This bike actually calls for the 12-cell battery if you go by their chart. And for most applications, I'm going to recommend that you do that. I'm putting this bike on the racetrack. That's where I intend to ride it. If a street rider wins it, we'll go ahead and switch it out. We'll put the stock one back in. We're going to keep that for him. But I want to lose as much weight as I can on this bike, and this is in a high position, right? Because the battery sits right up here on the subframe. This is definitely going to have an impact on the bike when you blend it with the exhaust system from Graves, this kick-ass titanium link system we put on. Huge weight savings there. Another 5 pounds with the battery. We've thinned out all the stuff that we don't need, right? I'm going to put some tank foam inside the tank. We'll do that in another video. That prevents the sloshing of the fuel in the tank. And the sloshing of the fuel, well, that doesn't reduce the weight, the actual energy from the sloshing. That kind of creates weight, if you will. It creates energy. So we're going to try and slow that down. We want to make this bike as easy to ride as possible. With these batteries, you can read up on all the technology, right? It's dry technology. These things are made in the USA. The Ballistic battery has a 3-year warranty. The guys there are awesome. We sell a ton of these. Any issues ever, they take care of it, okay? If you're going to street ride your bike or even track ride your bike, the right thing to do is probably choose the right size battery. My #1 intention here is weight loss, and I understand what that means. The only time that could really be an issue for me with this bike is if it's cooler out. I'm a pretty fair weather rider, so I'm not too worried about that. And understand too, with this technology, even if when it's cooler, if it cranks kind of slow the first time, crank it, let off. The way this technology works, that begins to wake up the chemistry inside the battery. Each subsequent crank, it's going to warm it up more, and then you're going to be good to go. So remember that. Replacing the battery, how easy is it? This one is a lot smaller than the stock one, okay? So what I'm going to do with this, and remember, this thing can sit in there any which way. It doesn't make a difference. It's dry. There's nothing to leak out of it. The stock one sat up like this. This one I'm actually going to lay down, and the only modification that I had to make, it's going to fit right down here, nice and snugly in that battery tray all the way to the bottom. It's going to take up a lot less room. Got a little bit of foam I'll pack here on each side just to keep it in nice and tight. The only thing I had to do modification wise was I took a die grinder and I just ground a little slot here to allow my positive battery cable to fit down in here nice and tidy. When we come back, I'm going to have everything bolted down and we'll go ahead and crank the bike over. Okay, the battery's in. You know, I would say at the end of the day, I think this is a pretty nice tidy installation. We took this behemoth out of there and replaced it with this 5-pound weight savings. Okay, you can see a little creative routing of the cables. The negative is on the same side it began, so is the positive. I had to put that little slot there in the battery case, not a big deal. I was left with a little bit of open area between the right and left of the battery. The foam that they pack it in was the perfect material. I measured it, cut it with a hacksaw, pushed it in place so it'll hold the battery nicely in the battery box. Remember, I chose a battery that was realistically one size smaller than they were going to recommend because I wanted maximum weight savings due to the application that we have intended for this bike. If you're street riding, okay, pick the battery on the chart. It's very important that you do that, okay? Now remember, I know that I'm one size smaller. I'm going to be riding this primarily when it's nice out, okay? I may experience some cooler temps, and in the cooler temps, it may crank a little slow the first crank. Got to warm up that technology. A couple of cranks like that, it warms it up, and then it should start no problem. Let's go ahead and see what we've got now. Let's key it up. I've got no problem with it. That crank actually sounds great. It's probably about 65 degrees in here. so it should be great. We'll let you know if we have any issues by going one size smaller, but I don't believe that we will. Remember, I'm going to reiterate this again. Street bike, right? Reliability is everything. Pick the one that the website calls for your bike. It's a cool product. 5-pound weight savings is what I enjoyed on this bike. Up nice and high. I dig that. I'm stoked to ride the bike. I'm Brian Van, sportbiketrackgear.com.